Good, hello. In this Sunday case study, I'm going to be looking at Kim Kardashian's sons. And the main question I want to ask here is, can the reason for her divorce with Kanye West be seen in her hands? Probably not. But what we will see is certainly how this divorce has affected her, and where we'll see that is on the marriage line and how that affects the rest of the major Palmer lines. Now, ironically, being such a huge sex symbol that she is, Kim Kardashian has a dynamic hand. So it's triangular in shape. It narrows at the base, and it shows a lacking in constitution. It shows a highly charged, emotionally and spiritual person, someone who has faith that if they just keep working at something, that they can move mountains. Dynamic hands have strong personalities. And as a result, the thickness of the fingers is relevant here. The hand displays outwards, as do the fingers. The thumb is quite high set as well. The palmar lines tend to slope quite heavily downwards, and they are quite often heavily islanded as well. Now, that's the kind of typical summary of the dynamic hand. She is intuitive, egocentric, but lacks physical strength. The dynamic hand, it's much more important to remain on a strong mental level connection with their partner, and they're quite actually happy to keep romantic relationships platonic. Key thing to remember about the dynamic hand, a person who is highly invested in the emotional and spiritual, is that they can be often highly idealistic, and their often biggest flaw is to sort of place too much um, on the shoulders of others, their expectancy from others, and they can often just sort of be doomed to sort of wander around in relationships quite, I wouldn't say aimlessly, but hopelessly, certainly. Now, usually where the dynamic hand is placing their strengths best, where they play to their strength best, is when they focus on their career, and their career is not a physically demanding one. If it's all about personality and intuition, their thoughts, their feelings, their ideas flow in abundance, and that's what this kind of extra width to the top of the palm suggests. They are highly active in their mental and emotional zones. And what's really interesting is that for the dynamic hand, generally speaking, money is not that big of an issue, which is interesting, being that she is obviously extremely wealthy. Kim Kardashian is likely very frustrated with how her body behaves at times. For her, it's merely a means to an end. It's a vessel to um, carry out her work, and work really for her is actually something that she lives for. Now, the thumb is something I want to talk about here, because in just about every single image, it is kind of towed inwards. It's anchored in just about every single image. You see it kind of pulled inwards. And this really suggests that she's not in complete control of her ideas. It's got a great strength to it. It's got a good length to it. I mean, it is fairly high set. This is certainly someone who's self-concerned. Not necessarily selfish, I would say. In fact, the head and the heart line, the spacing here is, it's relatively large, and it increases as time goes on. It shows that she has actually a fairly warm spirit. She is quite open and generous, but she is at the same time very self-concerned, self-interested. And that makes sense, being that her career is entirely focused on what she looks like, what she's doing, and how she's doing it. Kim Kardashian would likely benefit from freeing herself from the material, from the public eye, and from whoever is holding her back, not allowing her to carry out her many great ideas. It shows, unfortunately, sadly, a deep sense of insecurity. Now, in relationships, the dynamic hand struggles because they are often highly dominant in their own nature. They are authoritative, and that is certainly evident in the strong view of the thing. It's long. It's almost as long as Saturn. Not quite, but it is close, and that suggests superiority. This person has a strong sense of authority about them and is likely quite sort of judgmental, controlling, and just dominating. So in relationships, this is a person who requires someone who is highly idealistic and understanding. At the same time, they can't be weak. If they're weak, Kim Kardashian will likely despise them for their weakness. But if they're too strong, if they're too dominant themselves, then she will struggle to find some sort of coherence, some equilibrium within that relationship. Relationships in the palm can be seen on the marriage line, attachment line, union line, or relationship line. It's this little horizontal line here that kind of halves from outside of the palm, underneath the little finger, above the heart line. Vertical lines sprouting up and below from this line are said to suggest the amount of potential children. I've really looked all over the internet for the clearest images I can possibly find, and these are some of the best, really. Now, with timing the relationships on the marriage line, they begin just above the heart line. These are the earlier relationships in life, and this one here is more sort of midway. And as we get older, these lines can slowly move along the palm to make way for new potential love interests in future. Now, this line here that's midway, that's kind of deep and prominent, this depth of the marriage line shows just how strongly she feels about this person. And this is Kanye. And what's really interesting is that if you look very closely, you can see this line curving downwards and sort of reaching the fate line. Really hard to see it. And in this image here, you can see it again. There's just a really, really slight faint line there. And it's the effects of this marriage on quite an external level, because we're looking at the right hand, like physical, material level, and the effects of this divorce. It crosses all areas of the life and touches the fate line at the age of, looks to be about sort of 41-ish, because where the fate line meets the headline is 35, and where it meets the heart line is 53. So you can, in between here, bang in the middle here is about 42. And again, in this image, you can just about see some sort of curvature of this marriage line as it reaches down towards the heart line, as it shows how the relationship is negatively sort of pulling this person down, asking support and guidance from the emotional. And you might sort of see it's better in this image, even though it's very pixelated. But because she's sort of, curving her hand inwards, you can see this line here that kind of comes downwards and cuts the fate line midway in between the head and the heart line. And as I say, this is around about the age of 41, 42, and this is clearly a very sort of external effect, the signs of divorce. It's interesting to see the great changes of the career, sort of mid-20s. There's a massive shift here, and in that fate, in that journey, that destiny is, almost sort of fueled with a great spark here. There's an explosion of um, destiny, if you like. And the path of this person completely changes. And as we reach 35, after this age, things become very difficult. There's, great stress, a lot of hard work have to be put in to this person's lifestyle. And then obviously this divorce at 42. And what's in future for this person? Well, there's another great change coming, and that is at the age of 53. And later on in life, I think this great change would actually shift to something that was more closer to more towards what she was, her her journey began in. So whatever it is she was doing before 25, she's going to return to a similar kind of role in some way. However, later on, I'd say from about 55 onwards, there is a real strength to this person's career. I think she finally actually really finds a place in the world and what she should be doing. And there's a great sense of success, a feeling of achievement certainly gained through this hard work. Because as I say, for this person, money isn't actually all that important. And I think being, having not known any other life, I think that makes sense as well. But definitely from, I would say, 55 onwards, this person really gains a sense of achievement and success from the work they do. Now, I mentioned earlier on in this video about this hand being quite intuitive and egocentric. And I've only just noticed actually, there is a line of intuition here and it waves as it climbs up the hand. It's quite powerful, quite long, strong, but it is waving. And that waving of an intuition line shows, I don't want to say, it shows um, their connection with their subconscious isn't straightforward. The path towards how they perceive is in some way twisted. It shows a slightly damaged psychology. It shows a twisted subconscious. And as a result, there's a restlessness about this person. Their life is turmoil. And because of that restlessness, because of that kind of whimsical nature, as I mentioned, they are a hopeless romantic. Their decisions around what it is that they should be doing and when affects the lives of many. And as I say, this person could really do with kind of pulling back, getting away from the public eye, and working on connecting with their abstract and their subconscious, because this person actually has a really strong sense of intuition. And if they learn how to work with that's a real strength that could be played to. And I think also because we've got here a detached lifeline, the headline, it shows again there's a kind of a disconnect between the mind's energy and the life's energy. Someone who's actually quite brash in making decisions, a bit impatient, and adds to this kind of restlessness and whimsical nature. So unfortunately, there is a little bit of work to be done here, and I don't think this person is perhaps aware of, firstly, just how strong their intuitive gifts are, but also just how their intuition is in some way controlling them rather than them controlling their intuition. And, that waving kind of intuition line, it does go to suggest in some ways a little bit of instability, and it's not so much mental instability, but there is an instability in their life, and their life likely affects their mental health rather than the other way around. But it's probably a little bit of both. I mentioned earlier 55, there being a big shift, a big change. Well, 53. I think around that age, early to mid 50s, there's going to be significant changes in her life, and I think she may well lose a parent at that time. So, as for the reasons as to why Kanye West and Kim Kardashian divorced, it's likely personality clashes due to them both being highly dominant spirits, particularly Kim Kardashian, and just a lack of ability to um, coexist in equilibrium, being highly idealistic herself and needing someone with great human understanding. I think these are likely some of the reasons. But we can see how it's affected her on a very material level, at least, a very practical level. Don't really see it so much in the left hand. Unfortunately, there isn't really the clarity to see how it's affected her emotionally so much. And you can see that high idealism here by the way the heart line reaches right up onto the Jupiter mount. So that's my palm reading for Kim Kardashian. And hopefully I've kind of answered some sort of question behind her relationship with Kanye West. Let me know what your thoughts are on this palm reading, and also let me know who you'd like me to read the palms of next week. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.